Google's AI overviews offer instant summaries within a familiar ecosystem, while Perplexity builds a deep, research-grade engine for technical extraction. For 25 years, the internet operated on a simple contract. You asked a question, and search engines provided a list of places to go. Today, that structure is replaced by systems delivering the conclusion instead of the starting point. In this legacy model, you typed a query, scanned a ranked list of links, and did the actual evaluation yourself. In the new model, we expect the AI to synthesize the training data and retrieved sources into a direct conversational answer. Professional research is changing quickly. More than 50% of B2B researchers now use AI tools during evaluation. Getting answers directly means they stop visiting source websites. Click-through rates for informational queries are dropping by 25 to 40%. This creates a divide between two different approaches. Google's AI overviews offer instant summaries within a familiar ecosystem, while Perplexity builds a deep, research-grade engine for technical extraction. Continuing to rely on older search habits means manually filtering noise that AI models are designed to synthesize. Choosing between these tools requires matching their specific logic to the requirements of your own workday. Google's approach places AI overviews directly on top of the world's largest web index. It is designed to provide immediate context for every query. It is highly effective for product reviews, local business information, and quick factual snapshots, like checking the weather or a sports score. However, that speed comes with a specific trade-off. Google surrounds the user with sponsored ads and rarely provides inline citations to verify the AI's claims. We can see the professional limits of this tool by looking at how it handles deep technical research, such as a request for an EU AI Act compliance checklist. Google delivered a broad, high-level narrative summary of the laws, explaining the general risks and obligations. But a developer can't build a system based on a narrative. Google failed to provide the actionable engineering checklists and specific legal citations needed to actually verify the requirements. Google AI is built for consumer convenience. For deep, verifiable research, that design is often insufficient. Perplexity positions itself as a research-grade alternative. It treats information retrieval as an academic extraction process, rather than a system for routing clicks. This chart shows Perplexity's retrieval-augmented generation pipeline. The system parses the query, retrieves sources, and runs 3 layers of re-ranking. Here, the XGBoost quality gate blocks SEO fluff, only allowing clear, factual entities to reach the final synthesis. Because of this pipeline, the final answer is generally denser and comes with numbered inline citations you can check yourself. In a test involving a complex coding migration between 2 libraries, we can see the difference this structure makes. Perplexity delivered modular, testable code and backed up its recommendations with cited examples from GitHub. The trade-off is that this process takes longer, and you must manually verify the context of those citations to prevent hallucinations. Perplexity trades immediate convenience for structural rigor. If your workflow requires technical accuracy over speed, it is the more reliable choice. Recent study data reveals exactly where users draw the line on trusting these engines to do the work. This chart shows user preferences for looking up historical weather data. For a pure, objective snapshot of the past, 82% of users still trust a traditional search engine over an AI. The preference is even stronger for health guidelines. 85% of users chose search engines for COVID-19 safety measures, favoring original sources over synthesized summaries. But look at this shift for complex concepts like quantum entanglement. Here, 39% of users prefer a large language model to explain things in layman's terms. Users are separating the act of finding a fact from the act of understanding a topic. Our workflows should reflect that distinction. This decision framework helps solve the dilemma. The vertical axis tracks query complexity, while the horizontal axis separates subjective needs from objective data. Google Search remains the leader in this top left quadrant, built for consumers researching products, reading reviews, or finding local services. The trade-off for these users is that they must navigate past AI overviews and sponsored ads to find the human opinions they are looking for. Perplexity owns the bottom right. This is for developers, researchers, and analysts doing deep technical work that requires synthesis. You lose integrated shopping and local maps, but you reclaim the research time spent cross-referencing multiple tabs. For technical workflows, Perplexity should be the default. Leave Google for local discovery and finding subjective human criticism. There is a hidden side to this shift: how these engines change the way creators and brands are discovered. Content optimized for traditional search rankings may keep your website clicks, but it can make you invisible to an engine that filters for extraction quality. This is the goal of generative engine optimization.
Think about the old, broken way we've been doing things. You type in a query and boom, you're handed a huge stack of web pages. From there, it is entirely up to you to open a dozen tabs, dodge all those annoying pop-up ads, skim the articles, and try to figure out what's actually true. It is just so frustrating and incredibly time-consuming, but imagine if you could just hand your question to a master librarian, someone who instantly speed reads the 10 best books on the topic, synthesizes all that info, and just hands you a perfectly written, directly cited conclusion. That's the new reality we're looking at.
Section 1. The broken search contract.
For basically the last 25 years, search engines have operated on a really simple contract. You type, they link, you evaluate. But that growing frustration you've been feeling lately, yeah, it's actually scientifically documented. Covered by 404 Media, researchers from Leipzig University and Bauhaus University Weimar ran a massive year-long study. They looked at over 7,000 product review terms, and their conclusion? It's pretty stark. Traditional search results, especially on Google, are getting completely bogged down by low-quality SEO spam. Websites aren't even writing for human readers anymore. They are literally just gaming the algorithm to get clicks.
Section 2. Enter the answer economy.
According to the folks at Launch Tools AI, we are officially waving goodbye to the link-based economy and entering the answer economy. New AI engines like Perplexity and, yeah, even Google's new AI overviews, they don't just spit back a list of links anymore. Instead, they synthesize real-time web data to give you a direct, conversational answer right there, complete with inline citations. This paradigm shift is absolutely profound. As a user, you're now getting a final conclusion, not just a starting point. It's a total game changer.
Section 3. How Perplexity selects sources. So you might be wondering, how do these engines actually decide what's true and what's just internet noise? Let's take a look under the hood at Perplexity's highly praised sixth-stage pipeline. It runs on a process called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. Basically, this means the AI actually goes out and fetches live web data before it generates your answer. But here's the kicker. Simply being retrieved does not guarantee a citation. Out of the 5 to 10 pages it pulls, maybe only 3 or 4 actually make the final cut. The content has to pass some seriously rigorous tests for semantic relevance, freshness, and domain authority. And most importantly, it tests for structural clarity. So if a website's facts are buried under a mountain of fluff, Perplexity just cuts it.
And this right here highlights a massive philosophical difference between the big players. Traditional Google search ranks pages for click satisfaction. Basically, it wants to serve up the link you're most likely to click on. Perplexity, on the other hand, selects its sources for extraction quality. It honestly doesn't care if a page is heavily optimized for clicks. It only cares if the page has clear, verifiable facts that an AI can safely quote without warping the original meaning.
Section 4. Head-to-head comparisons.
When we look at real-world applications, like this breakdown mapped out by Mary Shiksha, we find that neither platform is universally better at everything. They just serve totally different needs. Google still absolutely dominates navigational tasks. Finding a nearby coffee shop, pulling up local maps, or shopping for a new pair of shoes. But for research, analysis, and deep learning, Perplexity offers this clean, ad-free environment that gives you a synthesized answer backed by live citations. It's essentially a dedicated research-grade tool going up against a navigational tool. This dynamic was really well documented by a writer over at PC Mag, who actually swapped out Google for Perplexity for a full week. They noted that if you're looking for a subjective movie review or a hot-take opinion piece, Google is vastly superior. But for condensing super complex scientific studies into everyday language, Perplexity was brilliant. They even called it Smart Guide. However, and this is a really critical caveat, during their week of testing, Perplexity did hallucinate twice, including completely inventing a statistic for a real 2023 study. So yeah, you absolutely still need to keep your eyes open and actually check those citations. Now, what happens when we push things into highly technical use cases? Index.dev ran a side-by-side test with real developers. The results? Well, Google's AI overviews won out on pure speed and simplicity, but Perplexity won heavily when it came to depth. For example, when they asked both to build a Stripe payment integration, Perplexity generated a modular, highly testable code sample complete with environmental validation. Google's was faster, sure, but it was kind of monolithic. And when asked about some specific Google OAuth updates, Google's own AI just pointed to the release notes. Meanwhile, Perplexity actually wrote out a robust, ready-to-use code snippet implementing the new security changes. Pretty wild, right?
And this preference for real depth extends way beyond coding. Academic data from an ArcSige study shows that when users need to tackle a complex synthesis task, like drafting a professional cover letter, 55% actually preferred large language models over traditional search engines. Because think about it, people don't just want a link to a generic template anymore. They want the engine to do the heavy lifting and actually draft the document for them.
We see this exact same shift when the task requires translating dense, complicated jargon. When users were asked to interpret a recent legal ruling in layman's terms, LLMs edged out traditional search 51% to 49%. It's becoming super clear. For any task that requires true synthesis and translation, answer engines are successfully challenging the decades-long dominance of traditional search. Section 5, the zero-click reality. So, what actually happens to the broader internet when users get their answers instantly and no longer need to click through to a website? Well, the number is kind of staggering. 8%. A study by the Pew Research Center analyzing nearly 70,000 Google searches found that when an AI summary is present at the very top of the page, users click on a traditional search link only 8% of the time. Without that AI summary, it was 15%. That is a massive, immediate drop in traffic flowing out to the rest of the web. And that directly brings us to this stark warning from a European Parliament briefing. I'll read part of it to you. This marks a significant change in how citizens encounter information. That shift may affect the economic sustainability of professional journalism, and they hit the nail on the head. While the answer economy is incredibly efficient for focused learners like us, it poses a severe structural threat to publishers, bloggers, and news organizations. Because if the AI just reads their articles and gives us the answer directly, those original creators lose their referral traffic, their user attention, and ultimately the advertising revenue they desperately need to survive. Which leads us to this final thought. The answer economy has essentially given us a master librarian right at our fingertips. An AI perfectly capable of synthesizing complex research, writing code, and saving us literally countless hours. But if AI answer engines like Perplexity and Google's AI overviews become the final destination for all of our queries, who is going to be left to write the books that the librarian is reading? Creators are restructuring content so the answer is provided immediately, directly adjacent to the evidence. The trade-off is brutal. You may lose direct traffic to your site, but you gain visibility inside the engines your buyers are actually using to make their decisions. The era of optimizing for 10 blue links is ending. Whether you are searching for answers or trying to provide them, success now depends on understanding the engines that synthesize the truth. In an era of zero-click answers, are we ready for the end of the traditional web? Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.